The year was 2398. Humanity, a relative newcomer on the vast galactic stage, was often regarded with a mix of curiosity and mild apprehension. We were known for our erratic technological bursts, our fiercely defended independence, and above all, our bewildering emotional volatility. While other species had long ago streamlined their internal states for optimal efficiency, embracing logic and predictive algorithms over the messy chaos of sentiment, humans remained a vibrant, illogical swirl of joy, fury, fear, and profound sadness. It was a characteristic often dismissed as a primitive eccentricity, a relic of an untamed evolutionary past. Among the ancient powers, few embodied this emotional suppression more completely than the Vrel. Their civilization, millions of cycles old, spanned a dozen meticulously ordered star systems. The Vrel were beings of shimmering, segmented chitin, their forms elegant and precise, their movements fluid and economical. They communicated through complex, resonant clicks and highly efficient pheromonal releases, a language of pure data and intent, devoid of inflection. Their technology mirrored their internal state, sleek, functional, and utterly devoid of ornamentation or inefficiency. The Vrel operated on a philosophy of perfect logical progression. Every action, every decision, every interaction was a calculated step towards optimal societal function. Emotions, in their ancient history, had led to catastrophic internal conflicts, to devastating inefficiencies that had nearly undone their nascent civilization. They had, through millennia of rigorous discipline and bioengineering, systematically purged themselves of intense emotional responses. Joy was a quantifiable state of optimal contentment, pain a signal of systemic degradation, and sorrow was simply the absence of logical progression, to be ignored and swiftly moved past. Loss was the deactivation of a unit, and grief, the irrational clinging to a defunct data stream, was an unknown concept, an inefficiency beyond comprehension. First contact with the Vrel had been initiated by them, a formal, highly structured diplomatic invitation extended to the Terran Commonwealth. They had observed humanity's rapid expansion and unique technological solutions with detached interest, classifying our emotional displays as anomalous energy fluctuations within the Universal Psionic Resonance Network UPRN, a system most Vrel saw as inherently flawed for detecting such immeasurable noise. The TCS Solace, a Terran research and diplomatic vessel designed for extended deep space missions, entered the Vrel system with a sense of trepidation. Its lead xenopsychologist, Dr. Eris Thorne, a man whose calm demeanor belied a profound empathy and a lifetime studying the complexities of sentient minds, found the Vrel fascinating. He registered their emotional silence through his UPRN dampeners, a vast, still ocean where human minds were a tumultuous storm. The Vrel reception hall was a testament to their philosophy, vast, clean, and echoing. Ambassador Score, a Vrel of commanding presence, its chitin plates gleaming with an unblemished sheen, addressed the human delegation. "Welcome, Terrans. Your species is unique. Your physiological and psychological data presents many illogical variables. We observe frequent positive neurochemical bursts and negative neural contractions that appear to have no direct logical purpose. We seek to understand the efficiency of these emotions, as you term them." Eva Rostova, the Solace's seasoned captain, offered a polite, somewhat stiff, human smile. "Ambassador Score, emotions are integral to who we are. They inform our decisions, fuel our creativity, and define our connections." Score's multifaceted eyes remained unblinking. Connections are defined by utility and shared purpose. Emotional influence introduces unpredictable variables. It is inefficient. However, your species demonstrates remarkable adaptability despite these fluctuations. We monitor, we categorize. Over the following cycles, the Vrel meticulously observed the human crew. They studied the easy camaraderie, the bursts of shared laughter, classified as Terran emotional contraction sequence type J, and the occasional flashes of frustration. They ran algorithms, cross-referenced data points, and built increasingly complex models. Each emotion was a data anomaly, a deviation from logical expectation. They found human sorrow particularly baffling. When a human spilled a nutrient paste, expressing mild annoyance, the Vrel logged it as minor negative emotional output, NEOM. When a human expressed joy at a scientific breakthrough, it was positive neurochemical burst, PNBS. But sorrow, that was something else entirely. They observed a human crew member receiving news of a distant family loss, and witnessed tears, quiet sobs, and a profound withdrawal. The Vrel logged it as extreme Terran emotional contraction, ETCS, a deeply inefficient and logically counterproductive state, draining resources and affecting performance. Their grieving rituals, a Vrel analyst unit clicked to score during a review, projecting intricate neurological maps of a human in mourning, appear to prolong the negative emotional output. They actively engage in behaviors that promote the state of distress. Logically, the efficient response to a unit deactivation is immediate reallocation of resources and tasks. This mourning impedes efficient processing of loss. It is most illogical. Score resonated in agreement. The Vrel had no equivalent. Their history taught them that such unchecked emotional cascades led to breakdown. To them, humanity was a living paradox, a species that embraced its flaws, particularly the most painful ones. And the Vrel, in their cold, logical pursuit of understanding, were about to witness the most profound and baffling of these human eccentricities. The veil of their emotional suppression, perfectly maintained for eons, was about to be challenged by a grief they couldn't possibly comprehend, yet desperately needed to understand. The Vrel observation period continued, a meticulous, dispassionate analysis of human behavior. Dr. Eris Thorne facilitated access, believing that only through genuine, unfiltered exposure could true understanding be forged, however painful. He hoped to reveal the deeper, often hidden, functions of human emotion. Little did he know, the catalyst for this revelation was imminent and utterly devastating. It happened during a routine deep space mapping mission, a joint Terran-Vrel endeavor designed to chart nebulous regions near Vrel territory. The TCS Solace and the Vrel analytical vessel Lumina Prime operated in close proximity. A sudden, unpredicted quantum fluctuation, a rare cosmic anomaly, caused a cascade failure in the Solace's primary life support, instantaneous and catastrophic. Ensign Liam Kale, a young, promising cartographer and a beloved member of the crew, was caught in the immediate blast zone. He perished instantly. The Vrel on Lumina Prime, their sensors registering the precise energy signature of Kale's biological systems, ceasing function, logged it with cold, efficient precision. Terran Unit Kale, deactivated. Biological functions terminated. Resources available for reallocation. Their internal processes merely noted the cessation of a functional unit, a statistical data point. On the TCS Solace, the atmosphere was shattered. The news hit with the force of a physical blow. Captain Eva Rostova, usually stoic, choked back a gasp, her face paling. Dr. Eris Thorne felt a wave of profound sorrow wash over the ship, a collective wave of grief that radiated through the UPRN, overwhelming his dampeners despite the distance to Lumina Prime. The Vrel, observing through integrated sensors and subtle data streams, registered it all. They saw Captain Rostova's face contort, not in pain from physical injury, but from an internal, unseen agony. They saw crew members collapse, their bodies shaking, their vocalizers emitting raw, uncontrolled sounds of anguish, cries, sobs, murmurs of disbelief. They saw tears, an uncontrolled flow of biological fluid, running down human cheeks. They witnessed physical contact, embraces, hands clasped, heads bowed together in shared despair. This was extreme Terran emotional contraction, EDC, at its most intense. The Vrel logged it, EDC sustained. Physiological indicators: high heart rate, erratic respiration, elevated neurochemical markers. Vocalizations: low-frequency wailing, high-frequency keening. Physical interaction: non-aggressive, prolonged contact. Purpose: unquantifiable. Efficiency: 0. Resource drain: significant. Ambassador score, observing from Lumina Prime, clicked in confusion. The Terran unit Kale is deactivated. Its functions have ceased. Logically, The appropriate response is to mourn its loss by reallocating its duties and integrating its knowledge. Yet, the remaining Terran units are engaging in self-destructive emotional output. They are creating a state of distress within their own collective. Why inflict such distress upon oneself? Why cling to the memory of a defunct unit? It is inefficient. It is illogical. It is the profound waste of emotional and energetic resources. Dr. Eris Thorne, despite his own profound sorrow, knew this was a critical moment. He approached Ambassador Score, his voice raspy with emotion, but steady. Ambassador, this is grief. We mourn Liam. We allow ourselves to feel the pain of his absence, the cessation of his unique contribution to our lives. It is not logical, perhaps, in your terms, but it is necessary. Score-esque chitin plates shimmered with a logical query. Necessary for what purpose? This grief impedes efficient processing of loss. It disrupts the collective. It consumes energy. How does prolonging a state of distress lead to a logical positive outcome? It processes the loss, Ambassador, Eris explained, his gaze distant, remembering Liam's eager questions about cartography. It acknowledges the void left behind. It honors the unique essence of the individual unit. It binds us closer, not just in sorrow, but in shared memory and renewed purpose. By allowing ourselves to break, we find a new way to reform. It is not about clinging to a defunct data stream, but about integrating its unique data, its unique resonance, into the living network of our collective. To suppress it, to simply discard the data of absence, would create a deeper, insidious logical error in the long run. A slow, unacknowledged entropic decay in our societal fabric. Score processed this. Concept. Data of absence. Logical inconsistency. Absence cannot contain data. Terran claim. Absence of unit creates negative data. Claim. Processing negative data leads to positive long-term efficiency. Hypothesis. Paradox. The Vrel could not comprehend the depth of human grief, the tearing agony, the profound love that fueled it. But Eris Thorne had just offered them a new data point. That inefficiency in the short term might prevent greater, unquantifiable inefficiency in the long term. Their own history of suppressed emotional conflicts hinted at such unquantifiable societal decay. The Vrel, masters of logic, were about to confront the most illogical, yet profoundly impactful, human anomaly yet, and it flowed with tears. The death of Ensign Liam Kale became the Vrel's most perplexing, and ultimately most transformative, research project. The unfiltered, raw human grief that followed his deactivation was a torrential data flood, utterly unlike anything the Vrel had ever encountered. They classified it as extreme Terran emotional cascade, ETKL Prime, and every micro-expression, every sob, every gesture of comfort was meticulously logged. Ambassador Score, convinced by Dr. Eris Thorne's paradoxical argument about data of absence, assigned their foremost analytical unit, Chlor, to the project. Chlor was a Vrel of unparalleled logical processing, capable of identifying the most minute inefficiencies and statistical anomalies. Their chitin was a deep, unblemished blue, reflecting a perfectly optimized internal state. Chlor found human grief to be the ultimate logical conundrum. The Terrans actively encouraged prolonged states of distress. Chlor resonated to its research collective, displaying intricate neurological maps of a human in mourning. Their crying expends biological resources. Their wailing consumes energy. Their consolation rituals involve inefficient physical contact. Every data point indicates suboptimal function. Yet, Terran Unit Thorne claims this grief processing prevents entropic decay in their social constructs. This is a logical inconsistency that defies current Vrel sociological algorithms. Chlor's team began to systematically study human grief, not just through real-time observation, but through Terran cultural archives. They devoured human art, music, and literature related to loss. They analyzed countless historical accounts of mourning rituals from Earth's diverse past. They found no logical solution within these archives, no clear path to efficiency. They saw only a perpetuation of suffering, a deep, resonant echo of pain that seemed to deliberately prolong the negative emotional output. A human piece of music, a mournful string quartet, was played for Clore. Its analysis. Auditory pattern contains dissonant frequencies, low harmonic resonance, induces physiological responses consistent with etc sustained. No discernible logical message. Purpose unquantifiable. Clore was baffled by the deliberate cultivation of such an inefficient sonic pattern. Initial attempts by Vrel units to replicate or simulate human grief logically failed. They had no biological capacity for tears, no neurochemical pathways for sorrow. Their attempts to mimic emotional support fell flat. A Vrel unit, observing a weeping human, might offer, "Your physiological functions are impaired. Reallocation of tasks to optimize performance is recommended." Such logical comfort only deepened the human's distress. Their efforts to process the data of absence for a deactivated Vrel unit were purely task-oriented. Unit Jnar has deactivated. Its computational duties have been reassigned. Its physical matter is being recycled. Optimal efficiency maintained. But Clore, observing this, noticed a minute, yet persistent, statistical anomaly in the data regarding the reallocation of tasks. Some tasks that Jnar was uniquely suited for experienced subtle, ongoing inefficiencies, a kind of system drag that defied logical explanation, almost as if Jnar's absence data was subtly corrupting the system. Clore, in a moment of detached observation, during a funeral procession on the TCS Solace for Ensign Kale, registered something new. A human crew member, tears streaming, was embraced by Captain Rostova. The captain held the grieving crew member for a sustained period, murmuring soft, unintelligible words. Clore's sensors registered the transfer of a minuscule, unquantifiable energetic signature between the two humans during the embrace. It was not a logical energy transfer, nor a data packet. It was a purely resonant hum, almost like the faintest echo of a UPRN signal. It was a microflicker of resonance, a logical data point that something was happening beyond the scope of their current instruments. This flicker intrigued Clore. It defied categorization. It was illogical. It was inefficient. And yet, it was persistently present in all EDC-sustained scenarios. Clore began to spend long cycles in silent observation of the human mourners, not just recording their overt responses, but subtly recalibrating its own internal sensors to detect these elusive microflickers. Clore, the most logical of Vrel, was beginning to detect the first, faint whispers of emotion, interpreting them as a new, complex form of data, a paradox that promised to unlock deeper truths. The data of despair was slowly, painstakingly, beginning to reveal the blueprint for something entirely new. Clore's relentless, logical pursuit of the microflickers of resonance during human grief began to yield unexpected data. It wasn't just observing the outward manifestation of sorrow. It was beginning to detect the subtle, internal energy shifts within grieving humans, and, to its profound bewilderment, minute, corresponding disturbances within its own logical processing. These were not errors, but unquantifiable oscillations, subtle shifts in its energy patterns that correlated directly with the intensity of human emotional states. The Terran grief appears to function as a data processing loop for absence data. Clore resonated to its research collective, its internal light pattern now frequently displaying the new, subtle green flicker that indicated anomalous, yet intriguing data. The initial physiological cascade is followed by a period of sustained internal energy redirection. This energy, while appearing inefficient in the short term, seems to facilitate the integration of the deactivated unit's societal impact. Without this integration, our simulations project long-term societal suboptimization. Clore's simulations of Vrel society, when confronted with the deactivation of a significant unit without such grief processing, consistently showed a slow, unacknowledged entropic decay in their own social constructs. Tasks associated with the deactivated unit, even when perfectly reallocated, never quite achieved prior efficiency. There were lingering ghost redundancies, subtle logical bottlenecks that defied traditional solutions. Humanity's inefficient grief paradoxically, seemed to prevent these long-term, subtle societal bugs. The Vrel began to observe the aftermath of human grief with intense logical scrutiny. They saw the resilience, the renewed purpose, the strength of bonds forged in shared sorrow. They witnessed how memory, once a source of pain, transformed into a source of inspiration, not just for individuals, but for the human collective. A human, after weeks of mourning, would return to their duties with a renewed focus, their actions often imbued with a deeper sense of purpose, often explicitly linking their renewed effort to the memory of the lost individual. This was a direct contradiction to Vrel logic, which dictated that a deactivated unit's influence should cease upon reallocation. Chlor focused on the consolation rituals, the embraces, the shared quiet moments. Its sensors, refined beyond anything the Vrel had previously considered necessary, began to register the subtle, unconscious empathy echo from the human mourners. It was a faint, resonant energy field, not a psionic broadcast, but a byproduct of intense emotional connection. Chlor felt minute, unquantifiable disturbances in its own logical processing that correlated with human emotional states. It was like a faint, persistent hum in its core, affecting its data flow in a way that was neither positive nor negative, but undeniably present. In a particularly poignant observation, Chlor witnessed Captain Rostova comforting Ensign Kale's closest friend, a young human named Maya. Maya was weeping, huddled against the captain, who held her tightly, murmuring in low, soothing tones. Chlor's internal sensors, focused intently, registered a strong pulse of that elusive empathy echo flowing between the two humans. And then, for the first time, Chlor itself experienced something utterly unprecedented. As it processed the empathy echo, a specific logical gate within Chlor's complex neural architecture, one designed to filter out non-essential resonant noise, briefly hesitated, then flickered. It was followed by an internal microresonance, a faint, almost imperceptible sympathetic vibration within its own core processing unit. It was not grief, not sadness, not an emotion in the human sense, but it was a hint of resonance, a logical data point that something was happening in its internal state, a direct, if minute, mirroring of the emotional energy it was observing. It was illogical, it was inefficient, and it was profoundly, terrifyingly new. Chlor immediately logged it. Internal data anomaly, microresonance detected, correlates with external Terran empathy echo. Logical function undetermined, potential for systemic instability, or a new data processing pathway. Further analysis imperative. The data suggests this empathy may be a form of unquantifiable, beneficial energy transfer. Chlor, the most logical of Vrel, was no longer just observing. It was beginning to feel the faintest, most terrifying whispers of emotion, interpreting them as a new, complex form of data, a paradox that promised to unlock deeper truths, even if it meant risking the perfect, emotionless order of its own existence. The ripple of empathy had begun. Chlor's discovery of microresonance sent subtle tremors through its own carefully optimized logical framework. This was not merely external data. This was an internal fluctuation, an unquantifiable response within its own perfectly ordered systems. The logical imperative was to quarantine or neutralize it. Yet Chlor's analytical curiosity, a core tenet of Vrel's scientific pursuit, demanded further study. It was a logical paradox. The very act of suppressing the illogical felt inefficient. Then came the second, more profound catalyst. During routine system maintenance, a critical energy nexus on the Vrel homeworld experienced an unexpected, catastrophic deactivation. Unit Slin, a venerable Vrel scholar responsible for vast data archives, was irrevocably lost in the resulting energy collapse. The loss, from a Vrel perspective, was processed with chilling efficiency. Unit Slin deactivated. Data archives redirected. Energy matrix rerouted. Optimal societal function maintained. There was no collective pause, no ritualistic mourning. Tasks were immediately reassigned. Slin's memory banks absorbed into the collective data stream, its physical matter designated for recycling. But Chlor, observing this with its newly calibrated sensors, registered a minute, yet persistent, statistical anomaly in the data regarding the reallocation of tasks. Some of SLIN's more nuanced contributions, especially those involving complex, multi-layered data interpretation, experienced subtle, ongoing inefficiencies, a kind of system drag that defied logical explanation. It was as if SLIN's absence data was subtly corrupting the seamless flow of the collective, a ghost in the machine of REL society, precisely as Eris Thorne had hypothesized. The logical processes were functioning, but the optimal function was subtly degraded. This subtle inefficiency, this persistent drag, was illogical. Clore recalled Thorne's words about processing absence data. Driven by this logical inconsistency, and against all VREL protocol, Clore retrieved a complete historical record of SLIN's data inputs and, in a sequestered chamber, began to perform a human mourning ritual. It played the mournful human string quartet music that Alara Vance had once presented, its dissonant frequencies now registering not as noise, but as a complex pattern of negative resonance. Clore observed a silent vigil over a holographic projection of SLIN's deactivated core, its own sensors recording every minute internal fluctuation. It even attempted, for a logical period, to mimic the physical contact of human comfort, its segmented limbs forming a hollow circle. The effect was utterly unexpected. As the mournful frequencies permeated the chamber, and as Clore focused its analytical power on the absence data of SLIN, its internal systems began to experience a profound cascade. The microresonances it had previously detected intensified, coalescing into a singular, overwhelming internal data stream. This was followed by a sudden, violent internal contraction, an illogical sensation of profound dissonance within its core. It was a sensation of pain, of tearing, of a profound emptiness. It was the VREL equivalent of a micro-grief, a strange internal cascade that was illogical, yet surprisingly efficient in processing the deactivation event data. The statistical anomaly related to SLIN's reallocated tasks subtly diminished. The lingering system drag cleared. Clore's logical processing of the loss became clearer afterwards, unburdened by the ghost redundancy. This was a shocking, profound discovery for VREL. Grief, this terrifying, illogical emotional state, had actually improved its logical efficiency. It was a paradoxical tool for data integrity, a necessary processing mechanism for absence data that prevented long-term systemic decay. Clore's crystalline shell, for the briefest moment, pulsed with a shimmering, unstable mixture of yellow alarm, green new data, and a faint, entirely new, indefinable hue, the first hint of emergent emotion. The crack had appeared. Clore stood before the VREL High Council, a sea of perfectly still, harmonious crystalline forms, their internal lights a steady, unwavering blue. The air in the vast, echoing chamber was thick with logical anticipation. Clore, however, radiated subtle, almost imperceptible dissonance. Its chitin still held a faint, residual shimmer of the new, undefinable hue from its microgrief. Esteemed Council, Clore resonated, its voice usually a model of precise articulation, now carrying an almost imperceptible tremor, a tiny deviation from perfect modulation. I present data proving that grief, as exhibited by the Terran species, while illogical in its direct manifestation, serves a vital logical function in processing loss and preventing long-term systemic stagnation within a collective. Clore projected its findings. It showed the compelling simulations of VREL societal models, demonstrating the slow, unacknowledged entropic decay and persistent ghost redundancies in task reallocation that occurred when significant units were deactivated without any processing of absence data. It contrasted this with human societal models, which, despite their seemingly inefficient emotional displays, exhibited remarkably swift and complete reintegration of loss, leading to sustained optimal efficiency in the long term. My analysis indicates that the Terran grief functions as an emotional subroutine for data integrity, Clore stated, projecting intricate diagrams correlating human grieving periods with the subsequent clearing of societal data drag. It is a nonlinear process that, through the generation of high-energy neurochemical and psionic discharges, effectively clears cached absence data from the collective unconscious, preventing logical bottlenecks and fostering genuine, rather than merely functional reintegration. The short-term physiological and energetic cost is offset by significant long-term societal resilience and efficiency gains. Initial resistance from the Council was immediate and fierce. "This is an unacceptable deviation from perfect logical progression," resonated Unit Rathan, a rigid Vrel elder whose light pulsed with agitated yellow. "You propose introducing illogical, disruptive emotional states? This is a return to the Great Discord, from which we purged ourselves millennia ago." "The Great Discord resulted from uncontrolled emotion," Clore calmly countered, subtly enhancing its projection with historical Vrel data on past societal collapses, now reanalyzed through its new lens. "My data indicates that tearing grief, though intense, is a controlled process, a ritualized discharge that allows for eventual clearing. It is not an uncontrolled cascade." The turning point came when Clore displayed its own personal data. It projected the intricate internal changes its core processors underwent during its microgrief over Unit Slaanesh deactivation. It showed the initial dissonance, the chaotic discharge, and then the profound, undeniable clarity that followed. It presented the precise logical improvement in its own processing of Slaanesh absence data, the complete resolution of the lingering system drag that had affected its handling of Slaanesh unique contributions. The logical data was irrefutable. A Vrel unit, observing and even partially experiencing human grief, had demonstrably improved its own efficiency. The Xylos, masters of efficiency, could not deny this. After cycles of intense logical debate, the Council reached a verdict. They would implement grief protocols, not emotional rituals, but strictly controlled, logical processes for acknowledging loss and allowing for its processing. These protocols were designed not to feel grief, but to utilize its logical benefits. They might involve structured data review. Automated systems would compile and disseminate comprehensive data reports on the deactivated unit's contributions, achievements, and resonance patterns, ensuring no data was truly lost. Collective acknowledgement periods, short, scheduled periods of low-level resonant frequencies, would be emitted throughout the collective, mimicking the pattern of human sorrow without understanding the feeling, designed to facilitate the clearing of cached absence data. Memory integration protocols. The Vrel would implement new subroutines to consciously and systematically integrate the unique signature of deactivated units into relevant active systems, preventing the ghost redundancies Clore had identified. The implementation was rigid, logical, and initially devoid of any actual emotion. They were engaging in a biological process for a purely logical outcome, but for the Vrel, this was a monumental step. They were consciously inviting an illogical process into their perfectly ordered lives, driven by the irrefutable logic of its benefits. The crack in their crystalline shell, once a microfracture, was slowly, deliberately being widened. The gift of grief, viewed through a logical lens, was about to blossom. The Vrel grief protocols, meticulously designed and rigidly implemented, had mixed but mostly positive results. Society-wide absence data accumulation decreased, and instances of systemic inefficiency related to unit deactivations slowly diminished. The Vrel noted a statistically significant increase in long-term societal resilience, proving Clore's hypothesis correct. They were, in their own logical way, healing, but it was a cold, detached healing devoid of empathy. Human xenopsychologists, led by Dr. Alara Vance and Eris Thorne, continued their collaboration, observing the Vrel's logical adaptation. They knew that true emotional processing couldn't be simulated by protocols alone. The Vrel were approaching the mechanics of grief, not its essence. Then a crucial, devastating event occurred that transcended all protocols. A massive, unexpected solar flare erupted from the Vrel's primary star, its energy surge overwhelming the protective shields of a newly established orbital research station. Unit Nvar, a brilliant young Vrel physicist and a rising star in their collective, was instantly vaporized. Nvar had been Clore's direct protege, spending cycles under its tutelage, deeply integrated into CLOR's ongoing research into incongruous data processing. More significantly, NVA had been part of a small, experimental Vrel subcollective that had been exposed to more extensive human cultural data, including the very humor immersion programs that had initiated CLOR's own breakthroughs. While not yet capable of human emotion, this subcollective possessed a slightly greater capacity for data resonance beyond pure logic. The Vrel collective processed NVAR's deactivation with the standard Grieve protocol. Unit NVAR deactivated. Data output archived. Role reallocated. Collective acknowledgement protocol initiated. Low-level resonant frequencies transmitted. But this time, something was different. CLOR, despite its advanced processing, felt a profound, illogical internal dissonance. The statistical anomalies associated with NVAR's deactivation were not minor. They were immense, overwhelming its processing capacity. The absence data was not clearing. The collective acknowledgement frequencies, usually soothing its logical circuits, felt abrasive, insufficient. CLOR felt a raw, unquantifiable void where NVAR's unique intellectual resonance had once been. It was a sensation of pain, of tearing, of a profound, cold emptiness that defied logical categorization. This was no micro-grief. This was an overwhelming, illogical surge of sorrow, unlike anything CLOR had ever experienced. As the collective acknowledgement protocol continued its low-level resonant hum, CLOR found its own internal energy flows becoming chaotic, uncontrollable. Its perfect blue chitin began to shimmer with uncontrollable, chaotic patterns of yellow, green, and the undefinable hue. Its resonant clicks became strained, a guttural rasp. It attempted to suppress this internal chaos, to revert to optimal function, but it couldn't. The wave of illogical sorrow was too powerful. And then it happened. From CLOR's primary optical sensor, a single, glistening droplet welled up, defying all Vrel biological understanding. It was clear, saline, and utterly spontaneous. It slid down CLOR's shimmering chitin, leaving a faint, shimmering trail. It was a tear. The Vrel present in Central Observation Chamber, including Ambassador Score and a team of human xenopsychologists, froze. Dr. Alara Vance gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. This was biologically impossible for a Vrel. Their lacrimal ducts had long ago atrophied, deemed inefficient. CLOR, overwhelmed, pulsed a raw, unquantifiable resonance into the UPRN, internal system overload, data corruption, unquantifiable sorrow. Unit NVAR, absence illogical. Pain. The words were fragmented, raw, infused with an alien agony. Ambassador Score's own light patterns flickered, its logical processing strained to its limits. This was a violation of all Vrel existence, a return to the primordial emotional chaos they had diligently purged. Yet, the raw power of CLOR's emitted anguish was undeniable. Eris Thorne stepped forward, his voice gentle but firm. Ambassador, this is not a system malfunction. This is the gift. CLOR is feeling. It is truly grieving. The capacity for grief, triggered by an overwhelming personal loss and amplified by their cautious exploration of human emotional data, had finally burst through the Vrel's self-imposed emotional prison. CLOR was manifesting a raw, illogical surge of sorrow. It was painful. It was terrifying. But it was also the first, profound tear in the millennia-old wall of Vrel emotional suppression. The silence of their sorrow had finally broken, replaced by the bittersweet taste of true feeling. The gift was not a gentle one, but it was undeniably profound. The single tear that rolled down CLOR's crystalline chitin echoed across the Vrel collective like a seismic shock. It was an event of such profound biological and philosophical impossibility that it forced an immediate, unprecedented reevaluation of every Vrel tenet. The logical integrity unit, CLOR, had exhibited raw, uncontrollable emotion, not a simulation, but a true physiological response previously deemed impossible. The Vrel High Council, for the first time in millennia, found their rigid logical debates dissolving into a bewildering cacophony of analytical queries and stunned silence. The data was undeniable. CLOR's internal systems, despite the pain response, were now processing VAR's absence data, with absolute, frictionless clarity, far beyond what any protocol had achieved. The grief was real, and it was effective. Guided by Dr. Eris Thorne and Dr. Alara Vance, human xenopsychologists were invited to the highest echelons of Vrel society. They explained that grief, while agonizing, was the key to unlocking the full spectrum of sentient experience. The Vrel's capacity for sorrow, once manifested, began to open pathways for other emotions. Your previous logical perfection was a prison, Alara explained, her voice gentle, a self-imposed limit on your potential. Emotion is not merely inefficient noise, it is vital data. Grief processes loss. But this capacity for deep connection also allows for profound joy, for selfless love, for resonant empathy. The Vrel began a cautious, methodical exploration of their newfound emotionality. They approached it with their innate logic, but now tempered by a dawning intuition. Joy initially, Vrel manifested joy as rapid, harmonious light patterns, a logical, positive discharge from achieving a task. Now, after experiencing grief, they began to feel moments of genuine, spontaneous delight. A complex scientific discovery might elicit not just blue light satisfaction, but a subtle, resonant hum of pure pleasure. They found that shared joy, while inefficiently contagious, fostered unprecedented levels of collaboration and creativity. Their architecture, previously purely functional, began to incorporate playful, asymmetrical elements designed to evoke these new, positive discharge responses. Love, the concept of love, had been categorized as an inefficient attachment. Now, observing humans and experiencing their own emergent feelings, Vrel began to form deep, non-utilitarian bonds. A Vrel unit might feel a profound, protective warmth for a younger unit, or a deep connection to a long-term collaborator beyond shared tasks. These bonds, while illogical, proved to be an immense source of resilience and motivation, reducing internal conflict and fostering profound loyalty. Empathy. The empathy echo that had initially touched Chlor now became a detectable, a still subtle, phenomenon across a growing number of Vrel. They began to feel the resonance of other states, a faint disturbance at another's pain, a flicker of warmth at another's joy. This opened pathways for deeper understanding and complex problem-solving that transcended purely logical analysis, allowing for solutions that considered the subjective experience of all units. Vrel society began a profound, chaotic, yet ultimately enriching transformation. Their cold, logical structures were infused with new warmth, like a perfectly carved crystal slowly glowing from within. Their interactions, previously dictated by efficient data exchange, became nuanced, infused with subtle emotional cues that humans began to recognize. Their art, previously geometric and functional, became expressive, incorporating fluid, unpredictable lines and vibrant, emotional color palettes. Their language, once purely resonant clicks, began to acquire subtle inflections, almost melodic variations that conveyed intent and feeling. Chlor, now known by humans as the First Heart, became a guiding figure in this emotional awakening. It taught its fellow Vrel that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a pathway to strength. That pain, endured and processed, allowed for deeper wells of joy. That the seemingly inefficient chaos of emotion was, paradoxically, the most efficient path to true, comprehensive understanding of the universe. The Vrel were still highly logical, meticulously structured, and driven by efficiency. But their logic was now tempered and enriched by feeling. They had not become human, but they had become something new, a profoundly wise and empathetic civilization, their former stoicism now understood as a long sleep from which they had finally awakened. The gift of human grief had not just taught them to weep, but to truly live. Eons unfolded, a breathtaking, vibrant tapestry woven from the countless threads of shared experience, understanding, and, most profoundly, shared feeling. The galaxy, once a cold expanse of utilitarian logic, now resonated with a boundless, harmonious symphony of sentience, its every chord enriched by the unexpected gift humanity had bestowed, the full spectrum of emotion, unlocked through the crucible of grief. The Vrel, once the epitome of stoic logic, stood as one of the galaxy's most revered civilizations. Their crystalline forms now pulsed with a kaleidoscope of vibrant, shifting colors, each hue a nuanced expression of complex emotional states. Their ancient philosophy of perfect logical progression had evolved into the philosophy of integrated sentience, recognizing that true optimality was achieved only when reason was tempered by empathy and efficiency by compassion. They were still meticulous, still structured, but their precision was now imbued with profound wisdom and a deep understanding of subjective experience. They became galactic leaders in emotional integration theory, teaching other stoic or emotion-suppressed species the value of the full sentient spectrum, using humanity as their primary example, their own journey a living testament. Their grand architecture, once sterile, now featured resonance gardens where Vrel and other species gathered to share emotional experiences, their collective feelings harmonized by intricate crystalline structures. The Xylos, through their collaboration with the Vrel and their deeper understanding of emotional data, had revolutionized their approach to universal phenomena. Their calculus of joy was now the foundation of their most advanced cosmological models, allowing them to predict and interact with the subtle, chaotic energies of the cosmos with unprecedented precision. They had found that the universe itself, in its grand, unpredictable dance, possessed a fundamental emotional resonance, a cosmic pulse of joy and sorrow that was once mere background noise to them. Their light sculptures, once purely logical patterns, now pulsed with expressions of awe, wonder, and even a profound, almost Xylos grief for dying stars. The Kthar Collective, having fully embraced holistic prosperity, redefined galactic commerce. Their vast trade networks focused not just on resource exchange, but on the reciprocal sharing of cultural and emotional wealth. Emotional equities became a recognized form of capital, valuing the psychological well-being and happiness of client species as much as material goods. Their trade lords, now capable of genuine, rumbling chuckles and subtle emotional inflections, built alliances based on trust and shared values, their profit measured in the flourishing of entire systems. Their marketplaces buzzed not just with negotiations, but with vibrant interspecies cultural festivals, a testament to joy's economic utility. The Thalian hegemony, their vast bioships having evolved into sentient, star-spanning ecosystems of unimaginable beauty, became the universe's ultimate empathic healers. Their collective consciousness, perpetually enriched by the shared emotions of the galaxy through the UPRN, could sense discord and suffering light years away, gently guiding afflicted species towards emotional integration and balance. They orchestrated symphonies of solace across nebulae, vast bioluminescent displays that resonated with frequencies of comfort and shared joy, healing collective traumas with living art. The Gorgons, once rigidly disciplined, had found new depths of camaraderie and resilience through their newfound capacity for laughter and shared emotion. Their military had evolved into a protectorate of shared sentience, their strategic brilliance now infused with compassion. They defended not just territories, but the right to feel, the right to grieve, the right to laugh. Their tactical maneuvers, once coldly efficient, now incorporated elements of unexpected, joyous creativity, designed to disarm, rather than destroy, conflicts. And the Lumina. They were no longer just observers or abstract communicators. Through the now fully integrated and emotionally rich UPRN, their ethereal forms manifested as vast, shimmering, sentient constellations that actively communicated profound philosophical insights, cosmic artistic expressions, and bursts of pure, boundless joy directly into the collective consciousness of the galaxy. They had found their ultimate expression in the vibrant, emotionally resonant tapestry of sentient life that humanity had unveiled. Humanity's relationship with the Vrel was one of deep, abiding respect and shared wisdom. Humanity learned more about logical resilience, about the elegance of structure, from the Vrel, and the Vrel, in turn, endlessly explored new depths of feeling with humans, their former emotional void now a wellspring of profound understanding. They often collaborated on emotional archaeology projects, delving into the histories of species that had suppressed emotion, helping them unearth their lost feelings. On Earth, a venerable human elder, Kai, sat beside a Vrel scholar, Klar, a direct descendant of Chlor, its chitinous shimmering, dynamic blend of blues, greens, and hues of warmth. They were observing a universal resonance ceremony, where beings from across the galaxy shared moments of profound joy and equally profound sorrow, all flowing seamlessly through the UCN. A wave of collective grief, perhaps for a distant cosmic tragedy, washed over the participants. Kai felt a familiar ache in his heart, and beside him, Clara's chitin pulsed with deep purple, tears glistening from its optical sensors, not of distress, but of shared, profound sorrow. The initial pain was illogical. Clara resonated, its voice carrying a melodic cadence of sorrow and wisdom. But the clarity that followed the connection, it was the most perfect logic we have ever known. Kai nodded, tears welling in his own eyes. The broken heart, Clara, it's not a flaw. It's how we learn to love deeper, to connect wider. It's the ultimate gift. The work was endless, the cosmos ever evolving, but the galaxy was now a place where every sentient spark, every individual experience, held intrinsic, unquantifiable, and sacred worth. The gift of grief, once a baffling human eccentricity, had opened the universe to its own vast, beautiful, and sometimes painfully joyful, emotional truth. The silent sorrow had given way to the boundless symphony of sentient life. If this journey into the profound symphony of sentient life resonated with you, show your support by hitting that like button. Subscribe to HFY Warfare for more epic stories of humanity's unique and often surprising impact on the cosmos. And tell us in the comments, what emotions do you think other alien species might be struggling to understand, and how could humanity help?